Good evening. I'm so glad you all came out to see me. Okay, that's my only joke of the evening. Welcome to the New Yorker Festival and this, what I consider a wonderful opportunity to talk to Christoph. And we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions. I forgot I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm Susan Orlean, a longtime staff member of the New Yorker, and I want to thank the New Yorker for putting together this incredible festival. I hope you're all having a great time. Before we begin, I actually want to start first by showing a little clip, which is probably how most of you first became familiar with Christoph. So if we can play that very memorable clip.
Monsieur Le Petit, are you aware of the nickname the people of France have given me?
I have no interest in such things.
But you're aware of what they call me.
I'm aware.
What are you aware of?
That they call you the German too?
Precisely. I understand your trepidation in repeating it. Heydrich apparently hates the moniker the good people of Prague have bestowed on him. Actually, why he would hate the name the hangman's baffling to me. It would appear he's done everything in his power to earn it. But I, on the other hand, love my unofficial title, precisely because I've earned it. The feature that makes me such an effective hunter of the Jews is, as opposed to most German soldiers, I can think like a Jew, where they can only think like a German. More precisely, a German soldier. Now, if one were to determine what attribute the German people share with a beast, it would be the cunning and the predatory instinct of a hawk. But if one were to determine what attributes the Jews share with the beast, it would be that of the rat. The Führer and Goebbels' propaganda have said pretty much the same thing, but where our conclusions differ is I don't consider the comparison an insult. Consider for a moment the world a rat lives in. It's a hostile world, indeed. If a rat were to scamper through your front door right now, would you greet it with hostility?
I suppose I would.
Has a rat ever done anything to you to create this animosity you feel toward them?
Rats spread disease. They bite people.
Rats were the cause of the bubonic plague, but that's some time ago. I propose to you, any disease a rat could spread, a squirrel could equally carry. Would you agree?
Wait.
Yet I assume you don't share the same animosity with squirrels that you do with rats, do you?
No.
Yet they're both rodents, are they not? And except for the tail, they even rather look alike, don't they?
It's an interesting thought, Herr Colonel.
However interesting as the thought may be, it makes not one bit of difference to how you feel.
If a rat were to walk in here right now as I'm talking, would you greet it with a source of your delicious milk?
Probably not.
I didn't think so. You don't like them. You don't really know why you don't like them. All you know is you find them repulsive. Consequently, a German soldier conducts a search of a house suspected of hiding Jews. Where does the hawk look? He looks in the barn, he looks in the attic, he looks in the cellar, he looks everywhere he would hide. But there's so many places it would never occur to a hawk to hide. However, the reason the Führers brought me off my Alps in Austria and placed me in French cow country today is because it does occur to me. Because I'm aware what tremendous feats human beings are capable of once they abandon dignity.
Wow.
Well, the wow. I feel wow too, but it doesn't have anything to do with me. The man can write. It is unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I have a million questions for you, but one thing that I was reading recently is that Quentin Tarantino actually, when he wrote this script, thought he would never be able to make the movie because he would never be able to find an actor who could pull off that role. And it's such a fascinating combination of evil, joy. It's such a complex role. When you read it, for the first time, what was your response?
My initial response when I first read it was, what part do they want me to play? Because I was convinced it couldn't be that one.
Really?
Yeah, I thought, well, they give me Quentin is very generous with his scripts. He doesn't, put a watermark on and gets a little policeman to hover over you while you read it and all that nonsense. He would go, read the whole thing. So fine, I read it. Good. Now I know the material that they sort of put out there. What is it that they want me to do? And they said, well, read that part. I said, yeah, I know that I'm supposed to read that part, but what part is available for me to play? I said, well, I don't know. And I wasn't aware that that was the part that
really?
that I was going up for. I mean, then when I did it, when I did the whole thing with Quentin twice, then I kind of caught on.
Oh. And was the part as difficult to play as Quentin believed that it would be?
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's why I say the man can write. He writes it all into the script, onto the page, and if you have your two bits together, that's what you follow. Mm-hmm. If you start to try to make something of it, I think that's a grave mistake because everything's there and more.
And what makes you think he thought of it as almost an unplayable role?
I prefer not to think about it.
Okay, next question.
Seriously, because then I'd immediately I feel inadequate. Immediately I feel insufficient. So it went all right. Let's keep it as such.
You come from many generations of theater folk. Sort of sounds like circus folk. Did you assume that you would go into theater in some form, or did you spend some time imagining you do something else?
No, on the contrary, I was vehemently against it because that's all I ever heard growing up, theater talk. Mm-hmm. My family never talked about anything but theater and the people in the theater and, sometimes movies, but they were mostly theater. A little opera. My stepfather was a composer and conductor. Not enough music for my taste. It was theater. So I said, I'll do anything except theater.
And what did you toy with in your mind as your future?
Artist, painter. And cinematographer. And then I kind of slipped.
And what was your first slip?
Actually, I don't know. I ended up going to drama school.
Oh, so I guess that didn't really work, that plan.
No, it didn't. And drama school was horrible. I disliked it. Classical Viennese kind of thing, Max Reinhardt being the founder of the Institute and all of that. And just a continuation of what I had at home. So I kind of left it as quickly as I could and started to work. Luckily, I got jobs.
And you did a lot of television in Germany and also a lot of live theater, right? And when did you start doing film?
Film was my prime interest from the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I wanted to become a cinematographer before I slipped. So the first few jobs that I got were film. And film is still the medium that I'm fascinated the most, or that fascinated me the most. And somehow in Germany, Austria, the German-speaking area being one kind of battlefield, it's hard to avoid theater if you want to make a living, as crazy as it sounds for this country. But
really, so that's the more vibrant.
Then it was. Now it's all commercial TV. But then also the way I was conditioned was, you join an ensemble and then you bite your way through. And that's what I did, and biting it was indeed, or being bitten.
And did you, from the beginning, think about the American film world, or is that an unavoidable fact of life if you're an actor?
Well, yeah. If you're an actor, or if you dream about movies, or if you actually have a concrete interest, why not go to the source? And even though historically you could argue, if you want to be a smartass, that Germany is the source, that was some time ago.
Yeah, but that's interesting, since there's so much hand-wringing in Hollywood now about the American film business being kind of choked and troubled, and yet it still is dominant in the world.
Look, it might be choked. If you want to know how intense choking can get, you've got to go to Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
And is that just a financial?
No. It's like a cultural finance. They have the most money in Europe. I don't know what they do with it, but now I'm lucky to say I don't care.
So the film industry there is just not.
No,
vibrant,
there's no inspiration, no hunger, no interest in topics that go beyond the stodgy and the heavy, and occasionally you get, but it very much, I don't know, it's a boring thing. It has a lot to do with the way financing is organized, because it is television that dictates everything.
Really?
Yeah. And Austria, I have to, in order to be fair, which is not necessarily my, prevalent trait, but anyway, it's livelier. It's a smaller country. It's more flexible. They have less money, and apparently that does something for creativity.
Yeah.
And altogether, I personally, not just because I am from there, but I think, the mentality is livelier and more flexible and more interested, and even also a little, more negative. You always need that negativity a little bit. I mean, at least I do. But, to kind of the dialectic of it is more interesting than just.
So you're saying in Austria there's more of that?
Yeah. And for movies, which is basically drama on whatever level, and which is basically conflict. And so to look at the other side is crucially important. I always say, I'm not the person for frontal collision, and that's more the German thing. So maybe they deprive themselves in that culture of their topics, and I don't know. It's just a modest little theory.
No, you were born in
Vienna.
But grew up mainly
In Vienna.
Oh, all right, good. I think he's from Vienna. This is just my own curiosity. Obviously, this is what acting's all about. But when you have in these films expressed things that are incredibly disturbing to say, I'm a Jew hunter, what does that at that moment feel like?
Like a word.
Really?
I actually, that's why I love playing Quentin's text. And I say text on purpose. It's not just a dialogue, it's a text. Because you do not have to, as I said before, make something of it. You follow the word. It's all on the page. It's
really?
Like music, It really, you can just jump in and let it carry you, and carrying it does.
Who else do you think is that good of a writer? Who, you've worked with some extraordinary directors.
Well, I would never say someone is worse than the next guy or better, but they all have, thank God, they all have their way of expressing what drives them. Mm. It just happens that I feel Quentin sort of writes for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, he does. He has certainly said that in Django, he had you in mind with that part, and I see them as a very coherent exploration.
Yeah, but and as strange as it might sound, I mean that more from my perspective only. Mm-hmm. It is my feeling that I get that Quentin writes for me, not so much that Quentin actually does or not.
Right, right. I want to talk about the notion of portraying menace. And it's very interesting because I have the good fortune of actually knowing you, not just on the stage. And when I first met you, I thought, he's really mean and he's menacing. And I would like to tell everybody here that's not entirely true. But you explore this certain kind of menace that I find so interesting. The sense that you're watching someone who could at any moment completely flip and sort of capable of anything.
Well, I don't really have like a master strategy for that. What most of my effort goes into, because I am a very judgmental and opinionated person.
How am I doing? Okay.
What most of my effort goes into is to disregard my own opinion. Mm-hmm. To not pass a judgment on the character that I'm supposed to play, because what I am saying to you right now is more or less what I'm convinced of. Mm-hmm. So the same thing happens for the character. The character doesn't, voice an opinion about himself.
He just lives it.
He lives it.
Well, actually, this is the thing that I've found the most interesting about all of the roles that you've done is, to me, they raise the question of what is morality? And can you be a good bad guy? Can you be a bad good guy? Is there any hard and fast parameter of morality?
Is there? I don't think so. I ran into this question on various levels, mostly in the press work for Inglourious Bastards. You know, the what I call the V word, or you know, the villain, or you know, it's immoral, or all that. Well, I say it sounds a little evasive, but it depends on your perspective. You know, and it does. Morals are too complex and complicated of an issue and a topic to really just have, like in an interview that you do with some TV station, you know, to deal with it in a sentence and a half. No. It's like a dynamic thing, and culture has something to do with it, and mores, and the time, and the historic period, and you know the everything that makes the world. Morals is not something that we can look up in a guidebook and say, well, yep, sorry, immoral, on page 27.
Well, I wonder if that's a very American notion.
Yes, it is.
You know, good, bad, and actually, I think one of the reasons I found Inglourious Basterds so interesting is that the whole, you know, something I think that most people automatically respond to the idea of a Nazi character with this total repulsion, horror. And your character is this charming, funny, you know, somebody who seems to find delight in his work. And you get sort of carried into it, and then you think, oh my God, you know, those are my relatives you just shot. And yet that's what makes it, I think, very interesting.
I totally agree. You're absolutely right. It is, you know, the signal goes out, Nazi, we're against it. Yeah, well, that was I felt very odd to actually always ask, yeah, what is a Nazi? Mm-hmm. Well, it's a German. I said, well, you know, it's not that easy. Mm-hmm. You know, what is a Nazi? What does it stand for? Well, it's a National Socialist Party of Germany. Yeah, so, you know, the Germans were Nazis. Well, actually, you know, the population was 85 million at that time, and 6 million people were members of the Nazi Party. That's not even 10%. Well, not that I would advocate or you know, jump to the defense. Far from it. But for that very reason, I want to see that we're thinking about it in its reality, or under the perspective of our morals. You know, we cannot just do away with it and have it all dealt with one word, because that will then fester. We need to go through the bother and annoyance and effort to really think about it and think about the details and what is it and what means it and why and what does it mean to us? What did it mean to them then? There's more interesting stuff to be mined from that word than just bad.
Right. And I think that the film whipsaws you through those emotions, and I do think American culture has a much more prescribed response to, you know, this is good, this is bad. There aren't, in Germans, I think, as a culture, tend to be very tortured about how do you define.
Well, I think, yeah.
No offense, but I'm just being broad in my. I think Americans are more comfortable simplifying morality.
Comfort is the word that I like to put some resistance against. Mm-hmm. Exactly, the comfort that we are right is what disturbs me. because we're not. We just, we're sort of deflected a little bit, and we're taking detours, but we're not, unless we question it with everything we do. I'm sorry, that's, it's not necessarily fun, but the promise that everything has to be fun is erroneous.
I think, that's the thing about the characters that you've played, is they're complicated. It would be very difficult to say, he's a Nazi, when, in fact, in this film, you view him many different facets of this character.
Well, exactly.
And even the simple idea of this little man who, little meaning he's somebody who you get the sense that he's found this great sense of accomplishment, that he can do something good, even though the thing he does well is so horrific. And to embody that complexity is really interesting.
Well, it's interesting, exactly, and that's what I consider my task and my job, to find the interesting details, because the grand picture is up to you.
How was that film received in Germany, by the way?
Very, very well.
Really?
Yeah, almost with a sigh of relief that finally someone can tackle that subject from a different angle, under different auspices, with a different charge of energy and a different mood, and nobody thought it would be possible.
I want to read a really interesting quote from you, which is, "My version of why anyone would want to become an actor is that it's some psychological fixation, something that happened in puberty that you don't outgrow in time. If you can make it a profession, it can be really neurotic." So what happened in puberty, Christoph?
No, actually, that sounds...
You didn't say that.
Yeah,
All
no,
right,
I did, but I kind of... That doesn't make sense. So I must have. But anyway, it is my conviction that everybody wants to be an actor at one point in his life. And it usually happens when you're trying to express yourself and find your place in the world, and be paid attention to, and all that, which usually is puberty. When you take the first steps out onto the stage of the world, and so everybody tries to kind of find his or her importance, and wants to become an actor. But that goes away when you grow out of it, and you kind of take a regular, normal, healthy development, and then you're fine. If you don't outgrow it, if you get fixated on that stage, then you become a professional actor.
Wow. Is it too late for you?
Yes.
It's hopeless. This is a question that I just am constantly fascinated by, with, even though this is the life that you grew up knowing and have lived, how do you maintain a normal life with such an unusual professional life? I mean, you travel a lot, you're really on two different continents all the time. Is there a way to maintain some sort of quotidian existence, or is it just, you're kind of living out of a suitcase?
I think you're well advised to give up that there's a solution. Just let it go. There is no solution. This becomes normality, and you better make your peace with it, because otherwise you go nuts.
And it's just Did you ever have another profession, or did you immediately started acting right out?
Well, that's one of the problems. I started when I was 19.
So immediately. So this has been, and you just don't fight the fact that you have a life that's kind of
I didn't
here,
say that.
there.
I do fight it, but it costs a lot of energy, that fight. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I haven't. I'm only doing this for 37 years. I haven't found the solution yet.
Were you raised speaking English as well as German?
No. I'd had a hard time with German. No. I learned English in school, and then I was married to an American for quite some time. A New Yorker, as it happens to be.
Is it different acting in English than in German?
I wonder. Somehow for me, it feels easier. I don't know whether it is. It feels easier. I find English a more dramatic language, meaning, especially for comedy, you don't spoil the punchline. You can say it and then you kill the punch. I mean, you just sort of shoot, the gag and you hit it straight on. In German, because German is such a complex and construction of things and the order and the syntax and so you kind of spoiled the gag mid-sentence. And when you finally make it to the end...
So there's not a big comedy scene in Germany?
Well, unfortunately, there is.
I'd love to show another clip here, and I totally unwittingly, I did these clips in chronological order. So this is... I hope all of you have steady stomachs. Okay. It's a little clip from a pretty remarkable movie called Carnage.
It's not cold. Thank you. Just sure? Little sips. The Coke wasn't in the fridge.
All right. Don't call me back. Tell him right away. Okay. Is Coke good for that? It's more for diarrhea, isn't it?
No, not only. Better? I think so. Mrs. Longstreet, if we decide to reprimand our child, we'll do it in our own way and on our own terms.
Absolutely.
What absolutely?
Because they're kids. They're free to do as they see fit.
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree about what, Penny?
They're not free.
Is that right? Go on. Sorry. Yep. Great. Yeah, but don't forget, nothing's been proven here. Nothing's certain. Don't fuck this up. If we don't get this right, Walter will be out on his ass in 2 weeks, and so will we.
Enough, Alan. Enough with the cell phone already. The here and now, God damn it.
Call me back and read it to me. What the hell's wrong with you, screaming at me like that? Dennis heard every word.
Good. I am sick of that fucking cell phone every minute of every day.
Listen, Nancy, you should be thanking me for agreeing to come here.
Really? I'm gonna throw up.
No, you're not.
I am.
You want to use the bathroom?
Nobody's forcing you to stay.
She's right. Nobody's forcing you to stay. I feel dizzy.
Well, stare at a point in space. Stare at a point in space, too. Hey, you can see part of the L from your cool.
Get away from me. Leave me alone. Shouldn't she go to the bathroom?
Go to the bathroom if you have to throw up.
Give us some Reglan.
Can't be the cobbler, can it?
No, I made it yesterday.
Touch me.
Take it easy, dude.
Yeah, come on now. Don't get all bent out of shape over nothing.
My husband feels that anything to do with the house, the school, the backyard is my domain.
I do not.
You do so. And I can understand why. It's all so excruciatingly boring. It's excruciating.
So excruciating. Then why have children in the first place?
Yeah, maybe Zachary's picking up on that lack of interest.
What lack of interest?
You just said yourself. Go get a bucket. Go get a bucket.
should have gone to the bathroom and do all this. Is ridiculous.
Your suit took a hit. What?
Everybody okay? Tell me about working with Roman Polanski, and that's such a different film where you basically don't leave that room.
Yeah. That was quite intense. It was fabulous because we rehearsed it like theater. We rehearsed for 2 weeks, and then we played run-throughs. We played the whole thing. Because it is a play, or was a play, and it's 4 people in one room with, the classical Aristotelian units in time and space and action, and so we could do that. I've never done that in a movie before, and people were coming to watch it like an audience, like experimental theater in the East Village, where the audience has to move with you from room to room and get out of the way, and it was great. We did 8, 10 run-throughs of the whole thing, and then we started shooting.
Wow.
And that was extraordinary because we really knew what we were doing. So I had, in a way, time to watch Roman Polanski do his stuff. And that's pretty remarkable.
What's he like as a director?
He just turned 80 this summer. I wish I had been like he is today when I was 30.
Really?
Incredible. A mind so agile and hungry for new knowledge and when he sets up a shot, it takes a long time until, because he really, he says, we'll move the camera this way, and the dolly grip moves the camera about an inch. He said, I said, a little. I mean, it's really about millimeters.
Wow.
And I thought, well, okay, well, if he needs it, let him do it. He's Roman Polanski. When you see it, absolutely, it is perfect. Every shot is perfect. And he is, some people dislike working with him. I think I'm a little asinine myself, so I like that kind of thing.
So he's very specific.
To say the least.
And, well, I know earlier you were saying that the idea of doing improv makes you very unhappy. So this is the opposite, where it's really surgically prepared.
Absolutely, surgically prepared. Surgical is really the thing here, micro-surgically. Mm-hmm. And I like that. As I said before, I feel responsible for the details. And the more detail there, I don't know, in English I think you say God is in the details. Mm-hmm. In German you say the devil's in the detail. Maybe they're both there.
Actually, didn't a German say that? Wasn't that Le Corbusier?
Who's French?
Oh, who's French, sorry.
What do they know?
French, German.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he was Swiss. So we're
there you
splitting
go,
the difference. And you're... How many people can I insult in one evening? And now you're working with Tim Burton on Big Eyes.
Right.
And that is a movie about the husband and wife team who painted the little orphan, or the urchins, I should say, with the gigantic eyes that were very popular in the 50s. What's Tim Burton like as a director?
Well, Tim Burton is precise too, but in a different way. He follows, well, not that Roman doesn't, but he follows very much his vision of vision in the true sense of the word, the visuals of his creation. And so they all come from different ends. That's why it's so interesting to work with different people. You know, I always think the poor directors, they only have themselves. They never get to work with another director.
Right.
You know, so they have to suffer all of that until they go out. And I can just say after the job, thank you, I'd rather work with the other guy.
Have you directed?
I have.
And do you enjoy it? Is it?
I love it. It's one of my great ambitions, and I can't get it together.
To direct?
To direct. I seem to fail every time I'm getting close.
You mean getting a project?
No, I have had the projects, and they like 3 weeks before I start shooting, they fall apart.
And that's just...
It happened to me 3 times, really.
Seriously?
Literally a month before we started shooting, they 3
And
times.
this is American financing, American film?
No,
or
there was
in
just
Germany?
one in Germany. Yeah, the ones who let me.
And so that's something you still want to pursue?
Definitely.
And hasn't it become a nightmare getting a movie made, or is that much exaggerated?
Thank God it's someone else's nightmare. I don't, you know, well, the thing, there was a movie that turned into my nightmare, and in the process of getting it made with financing, and all of a sudden I was caught in there, you know, and I said, leave me out of it. When you have the money together, call. And no, but I became like a pawn in the game, and it was, I didn't like it. It takes up all your energy and all your time, and I don't see through it. I say, why are you all making such an effort to make each other's lives so difficult? Because I don't know what they're doing, you know, nor do I care to know.
But that is something that we can, with luck, look forward to, that you'll direct something. What are the movies you grew up watching? What movies come to mind when you think of films you've really loved that influenced you? There's a
fabulous institute in Vienna. It's called the Film Museum. And it really is extraordinary because it's a film museum. It's not an archive where they put away rolls of film. It's where they show movies, and they show every day. They start in the afternoon. They have several screenings till every day until late evening, and they program extraordinary retrospectives. And it's really active, cinematic, historical, and contemporary, you name it, education. It is a museum, but on the screen. And I was a member of that film museum very early on, so I sat sometimes to 2-3 screenings a day when I had the time. And I saw...
You mean when you were a kid?
Well, not a kid, you know. I was a youngster, like 15, 16, 14. And I saw extraordinary things, and they are not programmed from a commercial point of view, and which makes all the difference for a film museum, not for a theater owner. I'm aware of that, but so I can say that really one of the things that impressed me, apart from the Marx Brothers, was seeing a retrospective of all of Billy Wilder's movie, not just the 5 that we watch again, you know, sort of obscure ones. I mean, if there are no real obscure ones, but he, for example, made a movie about Lindbergh, James Stewart in a plane for an hour and a half. Not his greatest movie, but still a Billy Wilder movie. You know, when you see sort of, there was a Mario Bava retrospective, and funnily enough, Tim Burton on Big Eyes mentioned Mario Bava all the time, so I knew what he was talking about.
So you really got educated in the breadth.
In a
film.
way, yeah. But I learned to understand that movies are more than what my 1175 at the Cineplex buys me.
Yeah. What were movies that you really loved when you watched as a young man, and what are things that you've loved more recently?
Well, I can tell you two completely diverse or opposite examples. The first movie that I saw, and after leaving the theater, went straight back to the box office to see it again, and then did the same round afterwards.
Oh my God.
Was The Philadelphia Story.
Oh.
I mean, when you ask someone about George Cukor today, they say, who? We say, you don't know George Cukor?
Oh, God.
You know J.J. Abrams, but you don't know George Cukor?
Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
So that was one of where I was fascinated across the board, from the writing, the cinematography, the directing, the acting, the action, the story, everything. And then there was a very funny Viennese experimental filmmaker, Peter Kubelka is his name. He later taught art, an art foundation course in Frankfurt. Very interesting man. He made the quintessential movie. Thank God it's only a minute and a half long. It's only light and dark and noise and no noise.
Oh, how interesting.
Because that's what one of the best lessons about movies I learned from him, when he said he took a piece of chalk and he asked a group of people, "What is this?" And nobody wanted to answer because they felt silly. And he said, "But what is it?" Until someone said, "It's a piece of chalk." And he said, "No, it's an airplane." Because what you see on screen is not an airplane. It's what you call an airplane because it kind of looks like an airplane. But what it actually is, it's projected light on a surface. Mm-hmm. And when you hear the noise, it's not an airplane noise. It's like a wave that copies the airplane noise. Mm-hmm. But you sit in the audience and you say, airplane. It sounds like one. It looks like one. It's not.
When did he make this?
60s.
Yeah. I think one of the funny things is realizing that we think, you know, I suppose everybody assumes at their moment in time that they are the modern experimental sort of thinkers. And in fact, I remember reading about a film made in the 20s. Lawrence Trimble did a film that only showed the actors' hands and feet. And, you know, I think that there's just so much that's already been thought of.
Recently, someone made a movie with split screens, you know, where a lot of things, and wow, it was an innovation. You know, it was, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. Abel Gance made Napoleon in 1926.
With split screen?
Of course.
It's amazing.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. I mean, I guess from the time, and actually probably in the beginning with film, there was even more experimentation because people were literally, it's like a garage band. They were kind of making movies in the barn. And
absolutely.
There was total freedom to imagine, and there weren't all the pressures of, are you a tentpole movie? What's the, you know, action figure that's going to come from this?
Apparently there was a talk this afternoon with Jonathan Franzen and...
Clay Shirky.
Right.
Yeah.
About, is technology necessary for culture? Very interesting point in if you relate that to movies. Because I feel more and more movies are being made because we can, from a technological point of view. But more disturbingly, more and more movies are being made because they can be gotten together financially.
Right.
I say that's not enough reason.
Well, don't you think, though, I mean, I look at what's happening with television, with web series. I do feel like we're on the cusp of a great amount of vitality. Not even the cusp. We're in a moment of a lot of vitality that is not necessarily coming out of studios. I mean, you see people like Tim Burton, Quentin, they can really make the movies that they set out to make, but there's so much going on that seems really, there's so much freedom, it seems, in these other platforms. And
I don't want to bash studios because that's too easy.
right.
But I can't deny that I'm wishing for a more adventurous spirit. Mm-hmm. And I mean that not technologically, because we all know that if your computer is big enough, you can do anything,
Right. But more in storytelling, or
yeah, well, it's the medium of our time. We should not remake old stuff over and over again because it proved commercially successful. We should actually be more responsible. We have the privilege of being part of this. The privilege always comes with a responsibility, and we don't use it responsibly. We are the lemmings who sort of, scurry along with what is being dictated in a way by business. I don't think that satisfies anyone, neither the makers nor the audience.
Well, I do think that this summer, with a lot of the big super commercial movies not doing that well, there's a bit of kind of reckoning of realizing that people do want. I think that the public is capable of appreciating better stuff than they're often.
I totally agree. It's a really a bad mistake. I mean, bad in every sense of the word. Like really sort of mean almost to deny the audience its level of judgment. And you say, well, no, if we scream loudly enough at them, they'll be happy. No, apparently not.
Well, it's sort of heartening to see people
Totally.
I mean, I always feel actually very happy when a stupid movie doesn't do well, and I think, good, I mean, tell.
I totally agree.
Yeah. What actors influenced you, or did you admire, both when you were getting started and
now?
Yeah, although sometimes people don't like to say who they admire now, because
I admire Bob De Niro. I admire Bob De Niro from the beginning till today, even though, granted, I don't like every role he plays. I don't like every movie. It doesn't matter, that he does schlock in between and then shows you at the other end not only what a talent, but what a master he is, only heightens my respect and my admiration. So that's Bob De Niro. I always liked Cary Grant. For the delivery and elegance and sophistication. I had a period when I worshipped Marlon Brando, and when I look at it now, I kind of cringe a bit. I saw not too long ago One-Eyed Jacks.
I've never seen it. Is it awful?
It's awful.
Okay. Put that in my Netflix queue.
It really is, yeah. But And it's a dynamic thing, your admiration. I mean, I don't know about yours, but my admiration is not such a static and reliable idea. It's more what I'm interested in at this specific moment in my life. You know, I like very often. Can I tell you an example? There's a movie with I even forgot the title of the movie. And there's a big bank robbery going on, and a very cool policeman organizing the whole, because they're the robbers have taken hostages, and someone from the government comes because it's like a big deal, and there's the first cop on the scene. He has one sentence, maybe two. And he's hanging around, and they establish a headquarter there, and he's always leaning there as if it was his case. I don't know what the actor's name is, unfortunately. I forgot the title of the movie. And this tiny little part, the guy is so good, he's so fantastic, that I watch this movie, I turn it off afterwards, but only until he's gone. And over again, because he's so good, and it's a tiny part. And I know how difficult it is to play tiny parts. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have the time to kind of, first of all, you don't get it offered a half a year in advance where you can sort of work your way up to it. Mm-hmm. You know, very often they don't even get the whole script. They get the sides.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he probably was called in a week before. Fantastic. I love these performances because they enrich the movie, and you know, you play the lead. You can only play it if these guys are good. Mm-hmm.
All the people around you.
And they are the ones who make you, who kind of elevate your performance.
Yeah. I have to say, I think your horse in Django Unchained was great.
Absolutely. Same story.
Now, he wasn't the one who threw you.
No. No, I wouldn't have gotten on that again.
Oh, was
No, that was out. I had an accident, a kind of nasty accident on a horse before we started shooting, and that horse, including the trainer, went.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We then had the best people that you can get.
Well, I think that truly movies that feel like worlds you enter, it is often all of the, I mean, it has to work on all of those levels, and sometimes those tiny parts are precisely what makes it move into this
absolutely
level of being a world. I think we were talking about Pan's Labyrinth once, and there's so many minor roles in the movie, and it's just so, everybody is so great and so completely in the moment, and it really makes you feel as if you've gone into another world and that you're really part of that world.
Yeah, in a way. It's always the making a movie world too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's a battle of the worlds going on, and sometimes the making a movie world, you know, is victorious. Mm-hmm. But that's more, I think you can tell that if you have been involved in that battle.
Right.
It's always, you know, the result definitely is what you're talking about. The way there, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. What sorts of parts do you think about really wanting to play? I mean, would you want to do a purely comic role, a purely romantic role?
Well, it's very difficult for me to say, because one thing I don't want to do is anything purely. Mm-hmm. Because I really think There is no tragedy without a laugh, and there is no comedy without a tear, and everything in between. So it sounds kind of coy, but I don't mean it that way, not one bit. When you ask me what kind of part you want to play, the most honest answer I can give is a good one. Mm-hmm. But under these, by applying these criterion.
Mm-hmm. Are you a good reader of scripts? Do you feel when you read you can say that this is going to work and this is I like this part?
No, not really. I can relate to it or not, and I can see whether it's whether the construction is crafty, but sometimes a badly written script kind of exercises an attraction or a suction even, where you say, well, I don't know, this is a really crappy script. Why am I so excited? I don't know, the analysis of why and why not kind of dissipates already the...
So when you read and it clicks and you just, even it's not strictly... This is super well written, great script, as much as I feel some connection. There's something here that I want.
And of course the connection is always in, primarily with the, it's nice and fresh in here, isn't it?
I know, I'm freezing.
Primarily with the character I'm asked to play. But if the script deals with a subject that I am busy with on the inside, then it kind of kindles my interest. Mm-hmm. If I just to go through the motions of something that might prove successful, I don't know, I'm too old for that.
What do you enjoy doing in your spare time, if you have spare time? Are you do you go to theater a lot? Do you listen to a lot of music?
Theater scares me. Theater always embarrasses me. I can't sit in the theater and see other actors making fools of themselves. It has to be so extraordinarily excellent for me to, at least suffer through it, that you hardly ever see it. I did too much of it. I know what's going on. I don't want to witness that. It's a form of embarrassment. Mm-hmm. I love the opera. I go and hear concerts, and with concerts I mean classical music. I stopped listening to pop music, not because I'm a snob, which I am, but that's not the reason why I stopped listening to pop music. I just, I really, I can say that, I think, without trying to be pretentious. Listening to great works of music performed beautifully makes me happy. Mm-hmm. Those are the moments when I'm happy. Mm-hmm. That's really the closest I can get to happiness, when it just opens up in front of you.
Classical. So that's your greatest pleasure is in that. And do you are you interested in visual art much? Do you?
Yes, I am, but again, I was very much following the contemporary art. I stopped that in a way, not stopped, but it kind of went away about 10, 15 years ago, and I, something that I never would have expected, that I'm really getting interested more and more in early 19th century. Yep. And Old Flemish, sort of 17th, 16th century Flemish art. I don't know, maybe I'm getting older.
Well, it's beautiful. We have one more clip that I'd like to show because we're entering the zone of Q&A with the audience. I'm feeling sad because I'd love to keep talking. But we'll just show a clip from Django.
Do you know what a bounty hunter is?
No.
Well, the way the slave trade deals in human lives for cash, a bounty hunter deals in corpses. Prost. The state places a bounty on a man's head. I track that man, I find that man, I kill that man. After I've killed him, I transport that man's corpse back to the authorities. Sometimes that's easier said than done. I show that corpse to the authorities, proving, yes, indeed, I truly have killed him, at which point the authorities pay me the bounty. So, like slavery, it's a flesh for cash business.
What's the bounty?
It's like a reward.
You kill people, and they give you a reward?
Certain people, yeah.
Bad people?
Ah, badder they are, bigger the reward. Which brings me to you. And I must admit, I'm at a bit of a quandary when it comes to you. On one hand, I despise slavery. On the other hand, I need your help if you're not in a position to refuse, all the better. So for the time being, I'm going to make this slavery malarkey work to my benefit. Still, having said that, I feel guilty. So, I would like the two of us to enter into an agreement. I'm looking for the Brittle brothers. However, at this endeavor, I'm at a slight disadvantage insofar as I don't know what they look like. But you do, don't you?
I know what they look like, all right.
Good. So here's my agreement. You travel with me until we find them.
Where are we going?
I hear at least two of them are overseeing up in Gatlinburg, but I don't know where. That means we visit every plantation in Gatlinburg till we find them. And when we find them, you point them out, and I kill them. You do that, I agree to give you your freedom, $25 per Brittle brother, $75. And as if on cue, here comes the sheriff.
Okay, boys. Fun's over. Come on out. All right, folks. Calm down. Go about your business. You jokers will be gone soon. Now, why y'all want to come into my town and start trouble? And scare all these nice people? You ain't got nothing better to do than to come into Bill Sharp's town and show your ass.
What'd you just do to Sheriff?
Now you can get the Martian.
I think that's a perfect moment to open it up to questions. And I think, oh, there we go. Okay, so there are mics there for anybody who'd like to ask a question. And if you are having trouble getting to the mics, because I see people over here, I think, unfortunately, they'd really like you to do it on the mic, because this is being taped. Okay, go ahead.
You choose very complex and multifaceted roles. Do you find those to be very a challenge? And what type of role would be the most challenging for you?
Well, if I could look at it that way, I'd write it. I'm dependent of. That's one of the sometimes frustrating aspects of an actor's life, that I depend on what is offered to me. So what is the most complex? Well, you can look at every character from so many different angles and perspectives. It's, in a way, you see what you know. And something, Glenn Gould said of Mozart, the most difficult thing to play on a piano is Mozart, because it's so easy to play. And I'd like to believe that that's true for some of the parts that I get offered, albeit not on that level.
Thank you. Yes?
Hello. Hey, thank you for the time tonight, Christoph.
My question is, coming.
How do you judge yourself and your performances both in the moment and after the fact when you see it on screen? And similarly, is there a particular moment in Django or in Glorious Bastards that you're most proud of?
No, there isn't. I don't judge, because that would open up a can of worms that I could never close again. And in the moment, that's one of the worst mistakes you could do as an actor, to judge yourself in the moment. There are other people who make a lot of money judging you. Let them do it. Afterwards, I don't know.
And what's it like to watch these particular clips?
Well, I don't know. When I watched it on the big screen, it was interesting because the perspective was so distorted that I've never seen it. And that little moth that was flying across the table was all of a sudden, the thing that you.
I actually noticed that moth too.
I've seen it before, but not like a swan.
Well, I actually thought, I wonder if there was a moth wrangler who released the moth, and there probably was. So
no, we have fly wranglers, but not moth wranglers.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Temur Malik, and it's a pleasure to be here, Christoph. Firstly, I just wanted to say Van der Rohe was the guy who said God is in the details, so he's Dutch. I'm a huge fan of your work, and the reason I kept a thick beard was inspired by Django. I'm Pakistani, and I could see in your works that there's this great depth and comedy even in dark characters, which reminds me of back home in the sense that even when times are very tough, which they've been for the past few years for my country, people see a sense of humor. And I think that there's a great depth in that whatever you're doing in life, and the ask may be, grim or glum or bloody even, but people see a certain sense of, comedy even in that. And I think there's great depth in that. But what I wanted to ask you was, you've played Germanic characters in both of your, two best sort of known movies. But would you ever sort of play any other character who's not of German heritage or Austrian heritage?
It depends. It doesn't depend so much on me. It goes along the lines with, as soon as that hurdle can be overcome, I certainly shall do my best to be ready for it.
Thank you.
Yes?
Good evening, Christoph, and thanks for having
Hello.
us. I wanted to ask, actually, I read somewhere that Quentin Tarantino would write roles and unintentionally Samuel L. Jackson would be in the forefront of his mind. Until recently, he's been writing roles and very much said that you're in the forefront of his mind with those characters. Is that relationship that's happened in a moment, or has it come over a course of time, built on trust, or that you have with Quentin? And
yeah, well, he wrote Inglourious Bastards before we met, and then I'm proud to say, or flattered, or actually I'm touched that yes, he did write that part with me in mind, well, let's see what's happening. Because it's not really, one movie doesn't really establish a series. I, as I said before, I revel in his writing, and I seem to catch the drift. That doesn't mean that someone else couldn't. So let's see.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Yes?
Thanks for being here. I just had one question. After you won your first Oscar, you obviously got a lot of roles. Did you feel an obligation to do commercial movies like Green Hornet? And then over time, do you do one movie for the studio and one for yourself, or have you maintained...
Yeah, I don't believe in this professed rebel mindset that we have to work against the studios. I think that's ludicrous. The Green Hornet was not an obligation. It was something that I've been offered, and I really wanted to do it because I had never done it before. I'm not only doing it for to satisfy obligations or needs, or others. Let's put it that way. I do it. I have to admit, also to satisfy myself.
Yes?
Hi. Were there any projects or films from your pre-Inglourious Bastards career that were particularly formative or significant?
Yeah, in a way, even the really shitty experiences are formative, and unfortunately, very often those are the ones who have a greater impact. Success is nice, but it's in a way rare to begin with, and second, it can add to your, or it certainly does, but the nitty gritty and the most part of or the biggest part of the nitty gritty is unpleasant. That's really where you kind of train your endurance and your will to still, seek out what is worthwhile, and the perseverance to look for the right details. I don't know, I sound a little cryptic right now, but what I'm saying is, unfortunately, bad experiences have a greater influence.
Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Suzanne, and
Hello,
I'd like to say happy birthday,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Waltz, a day late.
Thank you.
And I wasn't going to ask you this question because I thought it might be a little controversial, but actually you and Ms. Orlean brought it up during your conversation about Hollywood doing tentpole pictures and recycling the same ideas over and over again, and how awful that was, which I agree with. And yet I heard that you are in negotiations to play the villain in a Tarzan movie. And when I heard that, I thought, I mean, I don't want to offend you, please, because I think you're
I'm glad you're saying that.
I think you're a brilliant actor, but I thought, you're too good to be in a Tarzan movie. You are too good to be in a Tarzan movie. So I'm just wondering what that's all about.
That's very sweet of you. I'm glad you're asking that, because I can say that, yes, someone's asked my agent, and that's about it. So I don't know how the PR machinery works. I think it's also jobs, So someone needs to do something, and then they put out that I'm playing the villain in a Tarzan movie. No. Someone called my agent and asked about my availability.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yes?
I'd like to ask about something you said right at the beginning. I may have misunderstood you, but you implied that morality was not, I understand that it's not absolute, but I would like you to explain how you cannot say that morality cannot be clear in a situation of what happened with the Nazis and their aim to kill as many Jews as they could.
No, I didn't say that one bit.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
No. Not only did I not say that, I also made it clear that my personal opinion about the subject is very clear. And I did not talk about the effects and historical facts. I said that we make it very easy for ourselves in our judgments because it helps us feel safe. We like to avoid the confrontation. We like to negate the responsibility to actually form and educate ourselves about morality. We take morality as excuse me for taking the shortcut, the prescribed template of morality, and apply it to everything and then say, thank you, that was it. That was our dealing with morality. We don't have to go any further than that. We don't have to deliberate. We don't have to look inside of us and say, where are we? By putting the stamp on Nazi and getting rid of the deliberation, we actually facilitate the misunderstanding. Because it is not something that has been dealt with by the atomic bomb or the equivalent. No, it's still there. It simmers. If we don't treat that from an actively dynamic moral point of view, meaning making up our minds and forming the not only image but the world itself that we live in from a moral point of view, we fail. And who do we fail? Not only us and our fellow man, but our children. And that's what I'm driving at.
Yes?
Yes. Hi, Christoph. My
Hello.
name is Daniel, and I'm currently going to college to study to become a filmmaker. So I was just wondering if you could share some things that you've learned from the great directors that you've worked with, and just how you like to be, directed as an actor, and they pull out the performances that.
You couldn't think of a bigger question?
I know, I was thinking.
I know, it's very broad, but just, you're such an inspiring actor. I want to know the directing behind that, coming from a filmmaker's perspective. I just want to know how they do that, or if it really is just your own freedom.
The shortcut. Trust your instinct.
Yes.
Hi, Christoph. I'm Kim.
Hello, Kim.
Hi. I just want to say my favourite scene in *Inglourious Basterds* is the strudel scene. Just has me on the edge of my seat every time. Is it apple pie or strudel? That's not my question, by the way. I just really loved it.
So neither.
Yeah, I thought you were brilliant. Is there a particular scene in that film that you think is particularly great, or you particularly enjoyed doing?
No, that I don't believe in the absolute. And it's the great thing. Quentin himself said, "You have to watch my movies over and over again. And the first time you can't enjoy it, you have to get rid of the stuff." And I like that. You have to get rid of the stuff, and then you see the details. And as your point of view changes, the movie changes, and that's what great art does. You make it happen in its active form. So I see something different every time I see it. Not that I watch it all the time, you know, but I've seen it, I think, 5 times. And I saw a different movie every time. And I think that's part of the fun and joy and the rewarding aspect of watching great art over and over again.
Do you see something different in your performance each time?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I do.
Because I know, as somebody who watches them, absolutely the movie feels different every time you see it. And that's very interesting that it changes for you.
Totally, yeah, totally. And it would be suspicious, to tell you the truth, if it had a definite form. It needs to keep its dynamic. It needs to stay within, in synchronicity with you, and that makes it happen. Because like a movie that you just watch. Well, maybe that stays the same. But that's the difference between good and great is, I think, exactly that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is everyone here from Australia? Oh, I just... Yes, ma'am.
Nein, ich bin nicht von Australien. Nein. Ich wünsche dir auch einen guten Geburtstag.
Thank you, but you're not from Germany either.
What's that?
You're not from Germany either, are
You're
you?
right.
Yeah.
The accent's good enough. I was born there.
That might be the
My name, okay, it might be. It is. I just wanted to say I infinitely enjoy villains much more. Not any villains, you hate that word. You're so very exact in your terminology. I think that the antagonist portrays such an interesting development. I'm not a cinema. Everybody's getting very profound in here. I'm much too lighthearted, much too ignorant of cinema. But I do feel viscerally. And what I find excellent about you, if you can handle a compliment without putting it off, you do bad really good. Excellently.
Thank
and
you.
a movie that was not mentioned was Water for Elephants, which I love, by the way, for
Thank
you and for Robert. However, I saw a close-up of your face as I saw you change, and I saw the insanity that the narrator was expressing was developing, and you had to do that, no doubt, on direction. That tells me you've got what it takes.
Thank you.
And it's a personal pride for me because I've been around America and I love my country, but I was born in a country that's been villainized, okay? And there's no such thing as German actors. To see a German Austrian as successful as you, I have some pride, and you do it well, and I thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the word villainize.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous
yes.
word. If you allow me, I will use it from now on.
Yeah.
You were saying how originally when you went to drama school, the techniques that they were giving you didn't really work for you that much, or a little bit at first. No? Never mind. Sorry. But at first you said, yeah, I don't know. But then you were also saying how you just gave a little bit more technique to go with it. Is there any other techniques that you put forth to each of your work that works for you really well?
Well, you know what's funny? You say it works for you. You've said that 3 times in your question. It works for you? Well, you got someone working for you?
No. No one working for me.
Exactly. It's not the technique that works for you. It's what you do. And what you do happens here, and not with something that someone sells you for your money as a technique that works for you. Apparently you're a drama student or you take acting classes or whatever. Don't. And don't believe in techniques working for you. If you don't open your horizon, no technique in the world will do it for you.
Thank you.
Off you go.
Yes.
Hi, Christoph. My name is Carl. I feel in the recent years there are more and more skilled actors start to take roles from TV series because I feel maybe it's a platform where allows them to demonstrate their their kind of talent because of the character building and the amount of time that they can develop a character. Would you ever consider, being as talented as you are, to take a role from a TV series?
It depends on the series. Really, but if it's a good series, worthwhile doing, if there's something in it, if you can work with people who are, the ones you want to work with, why not? What's wrong with television? If, I did 30 years of it. Most of it was wrong, but that's a different question.
I think we're out of time. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and thank Christoph, of course.
Thank you.